So, hello, everybody. It is, I cannot believe it, the last Monday in July of 2021. How is that possible? How could that be? I don't like being so low there, so I'm just going to put myself up just a little bit. So, today I am with you for the Monday mission. It's been a very busy week for me. And what we talked about last week, I have not really had much opportunity to discuss or to look into. As you all know, I run two businesses. One is a consultancy and one is my shoe business. So let me just sort of bring you up to date a little bit on my consultancy. I have been working on a project with my consultancy that is a product that I can offer that is scalable. And I have been working on that pretty much all spring and working to actually do a beta launch of that. Now, I also had yet another opportunity with that come up this week. It requires some quick action and some deep looking into how to structure it and make it work. Hi, Neil. So what I'm trying to do this week is I've had to do a little bit of catch up with that and a little bit of thinking with that. And that has taken some time from my side hustle with my shoe business. But let me just report that as I continue to do the side hustle with the shoe business, one thing that I have found that is really useful and something that I think everybody should think about is that what really has been a great conversation starter and what really has been helpful in getting people to listen to my product spiel and talk to them not only about the project that I'm doing at the farmer's market, but also about my own work, is that we have this giveaway. And that giveaway is really tremendous because it is a stainless steel tiffin. Stainless steel tiffin is a box that is kind of like a Japanese bento box. It's India's answer to the bento box. And it's stainless steel, two-tiered, good quality. And the township is giving them away. So we can lure people over to talk to us and to learn from us by using this free gift. So this has made me think about, how do you get people to come by? Now you might recall, although I'm not sure we ever talked about it, that one of the things that was most useful for me when I was doing live bridal shows was a button that says, "Be badass and beautiful, RoxAnneLava." And I have my RoxAnneLava.com. So that was a great conversation starter, and it worked for me. Very small item, but it worked for me because the way that the spacing was in all of the locations where I was doing live bridal shows, there was always congestion because they were in event spaces, but the event spaces were never large enough once you set up vendors that you didn't have some aisles that were small. So having a small item that I could just give to people that made them laugh, got conversation starters going while they were waiting to see something else was really, really useful in talking to people. The tiffin box is a larger item, and that is more helpful at the green market, which has a really wide open space. It's like talking across like a big, big boulevard or street. So to get people to come over and to see what we're doing, that tiffin box has been really important. So it leads me to thinking about how does one have in their making business a large conversation starter? And this could be a number of ways. So one of the things that I'm going to try down at the next Galloway Green Market, which will actually not be till August 19th, is you may recall if you follow me on Instagram or if you've looked through my Instagram that I made a huge outdoor door wreath that had shoes made out of recycled materials. It has sandals on it. And in the center, it says, I make shoes. And I had used that for my door at home. It originally was an investigation into how do I talk about the commercial thing that goes on in my residential home without disrupting the neighborhood by having commercial kind of signages and messages. So I worked on that a lot last year with during the COVID, and that was a really successful one, and people really liked it. So I'm going to bring that one down, and I'm going to use that at the booth next time and see if that can compete with that tiffin. The other thing that I'm going to do is last week we talked about making the tote bags. So what I have decided to do is that could also be a freebie that I give away. And because they're bright and colorful, that can be something that can also hang at the booth to attract people over. Now, that might become what the cosmetics industry uses really well, a gift with purchase. So it's not really a freebie, but it is an add-on that you get if you purchase something from me. So that is, those are two things I'm thinking about to attract attention in a larger format space. The other thing is that I have been doing, I did the low end entry level price point of $5 for a package of foot scrub and foot soak from me that were takeout pieces of my Pedi Pack. I think what I'm going to do is bring back the Pedi Pack with the story and how it relates to Atlantic City, up the price, package it in a nice bag, and then all of a sudden I think it might be better understood and be looked at with some more value. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to cover was that this was my lesson learned from this week, is that I need to figure out how to have a larger format conversation starter. Now, other things that could work for me and could work at the Galloway Green Market are my taxidermy shoes, which are more showstoppers and kind of get people talking. But they're still relatively small to read from across a boulevard or a highway. Think of a boulevard or a highway. So those there, and the other problem with taxidermy is it either turns you on or it turns you off. Now, the most interesting question I got this week was, what are the most recycled shoes you have made? And I said, well, I do taxidermy, so that's probably the basest form of recycling. And it shocked and surprised the person who asked me. They weren't prepared for that. And while she laughed, I think it was really an uncomfortable laugh. So it's finding the balance of what will work, what will read well with your audience, what will get people coming over to talk to you. And remember, one of the biggest things about creating your booth is to keep it colorful, but not, because people will see blocks of color first. So having colorful things in big groups so they read as blocks as people are coming towards you is great. It's also exciting, but what you don't want to do is have scattered color all throughout. So you want to make sure to use color effectively. Use it in a color harmony that will work. If you don't know what those are, you can actually Google them, and I'm sure you will be able to find them fairly easily. And if you don't know how to utilize the color wheel, I'm sure you can find one of those online as well. So color can be a big way to attract, but make sure that it will carry across the way for however far away your people are as they're coming. Very, very important to do that. The second thing that is a follow-up from last week is I mentioned to you that GoDaddy has a payment service. So They had reached out to me because I'm a GoDaddy customer. That's who hosts my websites. Love them or hate them, I'm not telling you that you should put your websites with GoDaddy. I used to work with independent um, people who hosted sites and local people who hosted sites. Over time, things changed in the industry for them. I ended up going with GoDaddy because I was doing website design and development for customers, and I wanted to make sure that their websites were on a secure 24/7 up system. So I chose GoDaddy out of that, and that's why I chose a larger system. Put a pin in that and keep it in mind for just a second. So all of my websites are now hosted through GoDaddy, and GoDaddy now has a payment plan. Now this is great because in my system that I use, which is WooCommerce, I have several options. I can hook in a PayPal account. I can hook in a Stripe account. Both of those accounts allow me to take payments through credit cards. PayPal also allows for PayPal payments, so, all good. But what you want to remember is that each third party that you're working with is going to assess a fee and possibly a percentage fee, and possibly a per transaction fee that is usually standard. So what I'm going to tell you to do is the announcement of the GoDaddy payments came through. It directed me to a blog post that told me nothing, and a video about the CEO of GoDaddy talking about the product, but no specifics. So I'm going to need to really dig down into GoDaddy and probably more than likely make a phone call to their customer service to really talk with a representative about what it is and what it means to me or for me. Now, having said that, I told you to put a pin in the GoDaddy thing. So here's something I want you to think about. Do you go with a service that encompasses everything, or do you choose something that is a cobbling together of a number of services? Okay, so let's think about that. The easiest way for me probably to tell you to think about that is if you are an Apple person, a Mac person, you enter into an ecosystem that is the Mac ecosystem. And Apple does it so well that it makes it hard for you to go outside of the system. Again, we can argue about all sorts of things in relation to that, but just keep in mind if you are part of one ecosystem, and I am an Apple person, I have bought into that ecosystem since it started, really. And I've chosen that for a lot of reasons. One is that by dealing with one supplier, every electronic device I have automatically syncs. It just works. I don't have to worry about where I put this, where I put that. Did it make it from this service over to this service? I just use my Macs and my Apple products for everything, and so it's seamless. I also will tell you from my professional career as a professor at college who managed labs. When we had Macintosh Computer Lab, I never, ever, ever in years had a computer that did not work. When we had PC-based labs, I was lucky if out of 20 computers, 15 were up and running, and it generally wasn't the same 15 that ran for the whole term. So my experience with the Apple brand has been that while it is more expensive, it works, and the integration between its products is seamless. GoDaddy is the same kind of thing. So by them adding a payment structure, And how they have done it is you don't have to use the GoDaddy payments. It's an option for you. It can be used with all the other third-party applications that you may want to use. So they're not forcing you to use it. They're not even necessarily giving you an advantage financially to using it, because the CEO said they are using the industry standard for their percentage and fees. Again, I haven't had a moment to dig deep into this, but for me, one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure or see how it compares to my primary funnel, which has been PayPal. So that's the first thing I want to do. Now, GoDaddy also got into offering up templates and a number of other website solutions during the pandemic last year. They really tried very hard to help micro and small businesses that did not have web presence to get up on the web very quickly. So I rolled one of their other products into one of their newer products for my consulting business. Now what I'm thinking about doing with my shoe business, which I have told you uses WooCommerce and is actually WordPress based, I find it tedious. So I am thinking that what I might do is roll the business into another GoDaddy format. They have a sales format, and see what will happen there. Okay, so here's the thing that's also really good about if you are in one ecosystem. GoDaddy likes me as a customer. They want to keep me as a customer. If I say today that I want to get out of the WooCommerce and WordPress and I want to get into theirs, they'll take whatever is left financially on my WordPress years, right? Because I sign up, I keep the WordPress, and the WooCommerce is free through WordPress, but I keep the WordPress through them for a fee for a number of years, maybe annually, maybe 3 years, whatever. They'll take whatever is still in my balance for that, and they will transfer that over to the new product that I want. So if I want a new product and I have 6 months left on my WordPress, what they will likely do is say, okay, we're going to give you the same value for what we have for that transition over. Okay, so that, I think, will make me even more ingrained into the GoDaddy ecosystem, but in fact may be easier for me, because essentially it would be the same, a very similar templating system that will make it easier for me to manage. And as you all know, because I was talking about this before, the thrust of what I need to be doing is not really an e-commerce site, because what I want to do with my shoes is sell something else and then make the sale of the shoes something that is sold to a different customer base. So I'm at a crossroads. I know I'm rambling a little, but I'm at a crossroads. So here's the big other thing to think about. There is another retail ecosystem called Shopify, which a lot of you might use and which many, many people love. I would say, of course, you want to look into Shopify. You want to see what the benefits of Shopify might be over another ecosystem. So here, in my case, I would look at Shopify versus GoDaddy. I did that. The Shopify was not the right answer for me because I was already ingrained in the GoDaddy system. If you're starting out fresh, I encourage you to look at both. Shopify has some really cool stuff that they've been messing with that you can do, that you can utilize, that is really something that you might want to look into. Very forward thinking. They've got ways that you can use augmented reality for people to try things on. I don't know how much it costs. I don't even know if it does. I don't know if you would be eligible for it, but I do know that they are doing things like that. GoDaddy is not. So those are really important, like, things to kind of consider as you're looking into these two things. But one thing that I noticed today about Shopify, and I don't know if this is just because the company had it set up that way. I purchased something from a large retail company, and they were a company that had gone out of business, but they've now created a new format with their brand. I don't think it's the same people doing it. I don't think there's, it's definitely different, and I think the model is different. I did order something off of the site. It had a pretty bumpy go. It said that I had paid for it, but for weeks and weeks it was pending shipment. And I there's no calling anymore. It's online chat. So I did the online chat to find out what was going on with my order. The people answering my chat were not clear with their reply. And oddly enough, after I had chatted with them, I was supposed to get a refund for this item. I was told I would get a refund in 7 to 10 days, but the status changed to shipped, and it came to me. As it turned out, it didn't fit, or I didn't like it, whatever, I can't remember. There were a number of reasons that I wanted to return it. And then I got slammed with a return fee, and it is listed on my return as a Shopify fee. So there are just all things from a customer point of view wrong with what's going on with this company and with this transaction. It did say I would have a $6 return fee, which is not unusual for some businesses, right? You sometimes have to pay because you're paying for the shipment, the shipping back. But when they noted it as a Shopify, now for me, this whole thing is suspect. So I don't really understand what the stream is. I tried to get some information from the customer people, but it certainly does not have the customer service level that this company brand was known for, even to its very last days. So again, I say, when you are looking at a system, an ecosystem to buy into, really make sure that you as the business can control what is going on within that system in a way that makes you feel like you are giving your customer the best customer experience that most aligns with your ethics, your morals, and your brand. Because if it doesn't, it will really turn people off. It will make them angry, and it will really probably make them find your product from somebody else. And all I can say to you is, it's hard enough to get a customer. It's incredibly hard to get one. So once you have one, you really want to do your best to keep that customer, because that is really the only way forward to success. You need that customer to be talking you up to other friends so that their network is starting to look at you. You need that customer to be satisfied. You need that customer to come back. You need that customer to become and build into a loyal customer for you. And if your platforms are not allowing that to happen because of the way they're set up and it's out of your control, you really have an issue. Okay, so today, here's what we have learned. We are getting to the end of our 30 minutes. So let's just review. 1, when you are doing face-to-face sales, particularly if you are at a craft show or some kind of booth, you need to have something to attract the customers to come to speak to you. If it is not your product, then you need to think about something that can be a conversation starter. So in my case, we've been using these tiffins. That has brought people over, which has allowed me to show them the projects that I've been doing each week and talk about them and talk about the materials. And then from an extension of that, introduce them to my shoes, talk about how my shoes follow that upcycling ethos. And for all of that, this person gets a very nice giveaway item. So that's the system we've been using. One of the biggest struggles I've had is that often some of the things that I make are not big and they don't carry across, imagine a 4-lane highway. That's about probably the distance that we are, maybe 3 lanes. We have a strip in the middle of us. So I have to have something that carries. Remember last week I was telling you that this big, bright tote bag that I had recreated was a real something that drew people in a previous week. So last week I was making the tote bags. Now what I'm going to do is help use them as something that will hopefully start to draw people in, that as a conversation starter, and then an item that is a gift with purchase. So if you buy something from me, it will go into that bag. You now have an additional item that you can take, move, and use and move on. Okay. Remember last week we were talking about pricing that tote bag. So now we got to think about adding how we're going to pick up that cost. Okay. So that's in your overall scheming strategy. The other thing that I had done was during COVID, I had thought about how I could make my home look, or I could advertise the commerce going on in my home in a residential area without looking and disrupting the residential flavor of my neighborhood. So I made a door wreath. In the middle, it says I make shoes, but it's a very colorful wreath. It's in the same kind of idea as you might make any wreath. And so the character of it, the product itself, is something that is commonly found on a door. The way it looks resembles a colorful and attractive wreath. And then there is a little sign that says I make shoes. I am going to bring that to my next event on August 19th and put that in my booth along with the colorful bags. And we're going to see if those also attract attention and help people come over rather than just the tiffin. So that's going to be a good experiment and something you should think about. And remember, I did that with my bridal shows by having a very small button. That was a great marketing tool because I could hand it to the people who were kind of in the crowd in front of me, and it was a great conversation starter and got me talking about my shoes. Okay. The next thing we talked about today was, as you are working to think about all the technology products you use, remember that there are really 2 tracks and each one has pros and cons. One is living in the ecosystem, so the Apple bubble. One is using a lot of different providers to cobble together what you need to deliver what you want to deliver. So that's more like having an Android device. You have lots of people who create Android devices. Some are getting great reviews. Some are getting not so great reviews. So you have to find the right grouping to put together for you. Pros and cons of each. When you're in the bubble, sometimes hard to get out, and all the products in the bubble might not be the best product for you. But there is a convenience factor in the bubble. Outside, when you are cobbling it together, you may be able to get the best of each product, but you have to make sure that you can manage that grouping efficiently. Again, whether you are in the big bubble or in the small cobbling together, each product that you are using, you must make sure that you have control over that product to provide the experience that best aligns with your brand and with your feelings about who you want to be as a business, what ethically you are, what morally you are, what you want to see. And so that is incredibly, incredibly important. So Neil, thank you. Yes, the summary is the teacher. As you know, I've been doing it a long time. So part of my ethos as a presenter. And yes, I could offer customized wreaths. The beauty, though, of mine is that I make shoes, and what has made the wreath, what I've used to make the wreath, are shoes. The other thing is with the I play piano, so what I would see if it was I play piano, it'd be great. But what you would want to do is you would want to have something that resembles piano keys around it, perhaps, or music notes, or a combination of the two. So, yes, I could do that. But it probably would be easier or more fun for the person who has that business to create their own, because they would probably have materials that would make sense for them to use. I could see using songbooks, sheet music rather, and things like that. And the sheet music could be created into a number of different ways. So what I could do is I could design your wreath and tell you what to get, and then you could get it and make it so that you would make it your own. So I really do like that idea. The other thing is that and these are like just a final FYI to everybody. One of the products that I am going to show in my last 3 weeks at the market is my shoes. So I think in order to test the I Make Shoes wreath, I will do that the week that I am making shoes, because it will make sense. I will be making shoes. I will be showing people how to make shoes. I will be taking, I will have upcycled shoes. I will have my regular upcycled women's shoes that are more traditional shoes. And then I can have the sign that says, I make shoes. And the wreath that says that. And so that will be a package. Maybe that will be the way to show people to think about how that works. So perhaps I'll do that on the 19th, and then I'll have it. People will have seen it, right? But on the next week, I'll have it, and that perhaps I will be showing something else, right? And then the final week, I will still have it, but I'll be showing something else. So having it 3 weeks in a row will be a great thing for me. And let me just share a very small aside with you, because this was an interesting thing that happened to me yesterday. So pre-pandemic, I used to take my shoes to a second Friday event that happened in an art space. And that art space also had studios that were artisans and craft people and shops that are always there. So I went in only on the second Fridays, but the second Friday events were big events, and they were big events for really, the people who were renting those studio spaces. I brought a table, I sat in the middle, we had music, food, right? 2 hours on a Friday. It was a great way for me to get exposure for my products. Well, I happened to be in that space yesterday with a friend, and we happened to go into one of the stores that has been there and had been there when I was there. And the women who had the store were talking to me and my friend, and they were asking some stuff. And I said, oh yeah, well, I used to exhibit my shoes here on second Fridays. I'm sure you saw me. I was the shoe lady. Maybe you saw me. I'm the shoe lady. Both of them had no idea. I was there every second Friday for a year, and other outside events for a year while they were there. And do you know what that means? That means they never, on a second Friday, stepped out of their store to even peruse who else was out there. Because let me tell you, there's not a lot of shoe people in the market. And I know that they didn't have another shoe person. So just interesting. And it will be an interesting story to consider as I think about how my big wreath that says I make shoes might, affect my business. So it is 12:35. You all know that I could talk forever about anything. But I wanted to, cut these a little shorter at this time. And so I'm going to say goodbye and say, not goodbye. I'm going to say a biento, and I will see you next Monday. I don't know what I'll be doing there then. Maybe I'll even share with you my idea for my consultancy. Who knows? So we'll see what's on the docket there. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you got some thinking from, some ideas from what I've been telling you, and how to really kind of consider what you're using, and is it the best choice? Is this where I should be? So have a great week, everyone. Thanks for coming, and I will talk to you soon. Neil, as always, thanks. Good to see you too, and I'll be talking to you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.